No one suggests you can end poverty in a single day, though tomorrow the UN shines a light on the issue for World Poverty Day. More than 700 million people live in extreme poverty, and that's the bad news. The good news is it's falling as a proportion of the population. It's down to 10% compared to 36% a quarter of a century earlier. My next guest is helping to turn the tide. Michael Kremer is one of the 3 economists awarded the Nobel Prize this week for his work on alleviating poverty in emerging economies. He joins me now. Congratulations, sir. Honoured.
Thank you. Thank you.
So honoured to have you with us. The work that you've done is not just about alleviating poverty, but it's a different mechanism, modality for studying economics. It's in the field, it's large scale, it's not sitting in computer labs or running formulae.
I think that's right. I wouldn't say that it's not doing those things, but it's not only doing those things. It's not only, we use data, we use models, but we also put a lot of emphasis on addressing practical problems and on spending time in the field working with the people who are involved, whether that's farmers or nonprofit organizations.
So coffee farmers, for example, right. Which are already using, you have used for your research and are using the results of your research to improve crops.
So I'll give you one example
Please.
of something that I'm testing this with coffee farmers now. Now the developing world is very different than it was, as you say, 25 years ago. Now, most people, even in very poor countries, have access to mobile phones. And that opens up all sorts of opportunities for digital development. And that includes in agriculture. So, for example, there are a number of scientific advances about how you can improve farming practices. So that could include simple things like adding, if you have acidic soils, adding lime. Many farmers don't know about these, but they have mobile phones. So you can get messages to farmers. But
what are the economic principles that you've distilled out of this?
So I'll give you a few examples.
Sure.
But let me say a bit about the approach. The approach involves talking to the people on the ground, learning what they think are possible solutions, trying them out, and doing it, for example, with these mobile phone messages, just the way a tech firm would do A/B tests to try to improve their messages. You can do that with messages to farmers as well. So what are some of the lessons that are coming out? Let me give you an example from a different area, from healthcare. So there had been a big debate in international development about whether to charge for health goods. And there was a view that, well, it's really important to charge because that way the people who are really going to use the mosquito net or use the water, water purifier, thank you, they'll pay for it and the other people won't. And what we found was, and this was in case after case, it turns out that when you charge, many fewer people use it. You don't actually raise that much revenue because hardly anybody's using it. And you lose that big health benefit.
Where do you see the role? Because I know you've done some work with the World Bank, and you wrote a paper recently, a couple of years ago, with the World Bank. Where do you see the role of big institutions like the World Bank, which is going under a real soul searching at the moment for what the poverty alleviation responsibilities are?
So I feel like the World Bank can play a very useful role. And look, it's made all sorts of mistakes over the years. Everybody has. But I feel like they've actually been one of the big supporters and funders of this type of research to try and really rigorously test what works and what doesn't. And in many cases, they've adjusted their policies. And this example of charging for preventive health goods is a case in point. There were people in the World Bank who did want to charge for that. Now, the policies have shifted, and many of these products are being provided for free.
What does it mean to win the Nobel? I mean, it is, pardon the gold standard. What does it mean?
Well, I'm very happy right now. I can say that. It's just been a couple of days, so I don't know what it's going to be like. But I think, I've spoken to colleagues who've won before, and they say it's transformative. And I hope that this will encourage. I'm very pleased for myself, but I hope that it will encourage more people to go into economics.
Let's clarify that. Not just economics, but economics that are put into some sort of purposeful use.
That's correct, and I think that there are some people who perceive economics as I'm all about finance and so on. It's super interesting and super important. But economics can do a whole bunch of different things. And I think that there are people who are concerned about problems of the developing world. There's a role for them in economics as well. And I think also this will help encourage governments to start adopting some of these policies where there's evidence. And we're seeing that already, and I think we'll see more.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for taking time to come and see us. Thank you very much indeed.